Welcome in. It's the PAWSitively Petland Show, AM 800 KXIC. I'm Jay Capron, KXIC morning host, and I thank you for coming along, hanging out with us on this Sunday morning if you're listening, or whenever it is on the podcast. Podcast available 24 hours a day, whenever you'd like. If you're working out at 3 in the morning and you want to learn about cavapoos, well, you can with our podcast page. And we have 2 cavapoos. The question today is tan or black and tan. Which one would you take home? That's the one I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to post that on KXIC because I don't know which one I would choose if I had each of these in front of me. They're both just so cute. Which one would you choose?
I wonder if Devin might have an opinion.
Oh, and Jack.
And Jack.
You know what they'd say? Both.
Oh, I love it.
You can't get one without the other, right? They're sisters.
You don't want to split them up.
Don't split them up.
I love it.
Cha-ching. I'll take them both.
So my personal preference is a little black and tan because it's more unusual. I like that. It is here. We have a white one at home right now, so it'd be fun to have a real dark one.
Susie's a cavapoo?
Susie is a Maltese poodle,
okay.
But we have a white dog.
White dog, okay.
And we have Callie, who's more on that butterscotchy side of things. She's a red dapple. So we'd have it just be a different one.
These are cute. Yeah,
don't let Wendy hear this because she's like, "Are you thinking of getting another?"
I know, right? I know,
Yeah.
and that's the problem is that they are super, super cute. That's a challenge you have probably every day. You're just like, oh boy, another cute one coming in, and it doesn't take long. As you've talked about, average stay about 2 weeks or so, and
or less, right? Or it's actually less right now.
That's a good
average
thing.
Stay is less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you can stop by and check out Petland of Iowa City if you'd like. They're located right off Lower Muscatine. Super easy to get to if you'd like to check them out. They'd love to see you out there. And you can say hi to Ron, say hi to everybody out there. And of course, you have all kinds of cool things happen. You have the $5 nail trims. You guys have free puppy classes on Sundays before the store opens, and all the food. You guys have so much food. You have 30 of the top brands of dog food and a lot of great cat food too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. Was it 9 years ago? We had about 15 different brands, and that whole market has just exploded. And we have tried to keep up with it. What are the trends for Iowa City? What do people want and all that? So we're just about at least every month we are introducing a new brand into that store. So if you ever have suggestions and hey, I'd love to try this product. Is that something you'd bring in? Chances are we'll bring it in because if you're asking about it, people are, you're not just the only one. And so we'll end up bringing it in.
Here's a question I've never asked you on this show. What's the #1 selling brand of dog food that you have?
By far, Nutro is our largest brand.
Yeah.
It is what we, recommend, and we're feeding our puppies that and all that. So there's a lot of things that go behind Nutro. It is a great quality food. You will feed half as much of that as any food out there. It has all the supplements in it, so that's why we like it so much.
That's curious. I figured it might have been because I know they're one of the bigger brands now. Mars Pet Food Company is the name of that overall the company. When Lisa comes in, we have Lisa Lumbrakis, who is always a fun guest here. So I was just curious, if that is #1. And of course, there's a lot of variety. Some of the ones you've talked about, Taste of the Wild, and just the list goes on. And they all offer a little bit different. And of course, you can use that Pet Food Rater website, which is almost everyone you bring on is a 3 or a 4.
Right, dog food review.
Yeah,
I use that as just keep everything square and honest type thing. So it's a third party. They seem to do a really nice job of reviewing foods. They'll point out, hey, we rated it 4 out of 5 because it had beet pulp in it, and we're just concerned about the sugars that might come along with beet pulp. That's where a little bit of ignorance shows through. Sugar does not come through. The amount that would come through would be so minimal. If you didn't know that most of the sugar that we eat is from beets, and one of the byproducts of that process is beet pulp, the fibrous aspects of the beet. Well, heck, that is good quality stuff. There is no problem with consuming that as a fiber source. So dog foods use beet pulp in their food to add fiber, and dogs need that fiber. I know we talk a lot about and hear a lot about grain-free for dogs, but there's actually no scientific study that says that grain-free is at all great for dogs. They do eat grains, it's a fact, It's just something that's a real big trend on the internet right now. So bee pulp is actually a great source of fiber. It's what gives those dogs those nice firm stools, kind of a thing, little Tootsie Rolls coming out. And so a little product like that you can misinterpret in different ways, but it's a great it's a great ingredient for your dog.
And we'll go into what we were saying. You have a lot of great brands, and that's a way to check it out, is that dog food pet review website. You can just take a look. And again, we always caution to be careful what you see on the internet, because a lot of that stuff does get taken out of context. Ron Salzer's here. He's with Petland of Iowa City. It is the Positively Petland Show. Glad to have you back live in studio. We did one of our best of favorites last week, and we're back with another new show today. And we are going to tell you about these Cavapoos. We'll tell you about them. You can take a look at what they look like on the website at kxic.com. We're also going to talk about potty training, get you up to date on that in a way that you can maybe listen in and see if we can help you out any. Ron's going to take you through, 24 hours of potty training?
Yeah, what does that look like? And talk about the tips that you can use throughout to help your dog understand this is the way it should be, and this is what we're going to do to make sure you are properly potty trained.
And what else are we going to talk about today?
We're talking about, as far as foods go, the Nutro's Max, which is a more economical brand, but it has all the great stuff in it. And so we'll go through what's that all about, and we're going to bring up Dog Food Advisor and see what they say about it as well. And then we're going to review the Miniature Poodle.
The Miniature Poodle is the breed of the week, and we always have our amazing pet story of the week. So Big Voice Guy, oh, look at that. Look what he brought in today. He's got a sheep, a pig, and a cow. I thought that smell was you, Big Voice Guy, but no, it's not. He brought them over from the fair. These are all the blue ribbons, the winners here. So congratulations to all the 4-H'ers and all the kids out there. I hope he takes care of your animals and gets them back to you, okay? But
he's real proud, man. His chest is all out as he pranced him around the studio.
That's right.
That was really cool.
I didn't realize he was so good with livestock and animals. So nice job there, Big Voice Guy. Thank you. He was out at the Johnson County Fair this week. Maybe you are out there too. It is time for the amazing pet story of the week. And today we go to a story that is kind of interesting here. I think that it's a snowstorm that came through, and there were an elderly couple that was in harm's way, and a half-breed wolf and dog, Shayna, a German Shepherd and half wolf, helped save an elderly couple from a treacherous snowstorm. When Shayna found Norman and Eve, they were trapped by snow. She went to work diligently digging out a tunnel in which they were able to pull the couple out and safely back to their home in the middle of a snowstorm. How about that? Shayna, the amazing pet story of the week, a half wolf, half German Shepherd that saved an elderly couple by digging them out of a snowstorm. That's your amazing pet story of the week. When we come back, we're going to talk about the poodle. We'll take you through 24 hours of potty training in a condensed format and talk about Nutro Max. And we've got 2 Cavapoos, and the poo part is the poo part we're going to talk about, which is the poodle part. And that's amazing, the breed of the week, the poodle. But the Cavalier King Charles, great dog that we've talked about in the past, and you can see both when you look at these two. The question is, tan or black and tan? Which one would you choose? Check out kxic.com on our Facebook page and make your selection. We'll be back with more after this. It's the Positively Petland Show. Welcome back. It's the Positively Petland Show, AM 800 KXIC. I'm Jay Capron. Ron Salzer's here with Petland of Iowa City, and we've got 2 Cavapoos running around the studio, and they're rambunctious. It's funny because Ron came, and the first half hour, I think, the door was open to the kennel, and they were both snuggled up in there, and then the tan one got up and went out to the door, looked up at me, and said, "No, I'm not going out there, that ugly guy." Just turned around, did a couple circles, and then laid down, went back to sleep. And now that they're up, man, they're all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah.
Tugging on cords. My shoelace is untied right now.
Right, mine is too. I've tied it twice.
Have you?
Yeah.
They untied mine too. So they've been at it, going back and forth at our shoes, and having a good time here. And we certainly enjoy the fact that they're here. And we thank you for tuning in to the PAWSitively Petland Show. It's really a chance to talk pets, talk about ways that we can help you. Ron specifically, I just kind of steer the ship, but Ron's the expert here, and he talks to people every day that have the same problems that you have with your pets. And so on a daily basis, he gets to talk to people, he gets to help them find solutions. And through all those years of owning the pet store and helping them to solve these problems, he's built up this expertise that really can help you with your problems. So that's what we like to do. In fact, I did get a text, which is fun. One of the things I love about technology is my father-in-law lives in the suburbs of Chicago. He's been listening to the show all morning, and when you came on, he was like, "Oh, I got a question for the pet guy." So I love the fact that I have friends and family across the country in different areas that will tune into the show occasionally and listen to who I'm talking to. And he texted me a question, so I thought I'd bring that to the show before we get too far along. And his question was, he said they have a dachshund, Dolly is her name. And cute little dog. She's a great dog. But he wanted a harness with a handle because he said when he takes her on walks, he gets nervous occasionally when there's a bigger dog that could come towards her, and he has to get her up quick. He has bad knees. He has trouble getting around. So he wants something that he can just pick her up real quick and get her out of harm's way if he needs to. So your answer to him
is most harnesses will actually take care of that situation. Harnesses are as opposed to collars. So the collars are just around the neck. Usually that's where you attach your lead. You got your tags and stuff like that on there. And then most people just walk their dog with that collar and a lead. But some of us have dogs that pull. Dachshunds are definitely pullers. And so we go to a harness. We're not teaching them how to not pull at this point. We're just making it so it's less stress on their neck. And so in this case, your father-in-law is using a harness to just cushion that pull that dog does. It's the same thing as a sledding dog. A sledding dog has a harness so that it can pull that sled. So the easy answer to this is almost every harness will do exactly what he's talking about. You can literally pull on a harness because it's distributing it across the body. You can pick up your lead and usually pull up your dog harmlessly. You want to try it, make sure that everything's going right. If you're a little bit concerned about, well, I want that weight to be distributed even more, so we'll get a thicker, find that harness with a thicker ribbon around the waist. And then you'll also find some that have padding and extra material and all that kind of stuff. So it's just really, what are you looking for? But you can pick up almost any dog by the harness because it is distributing the weight across the entire dog.
All right, so there you go. A little scoop up, and it evenly distributes the weight, and you're able to safely pick up your dog, which, I think, if I'm not mistaken, no, I think he does have a little harness he uses, but if you just use the collar, you don't want to do that.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, you're picking them up by the neck. So, all right, there you go. Good question answered. Thanks, Joe, for listening in, and thanks for asking that question. And we'll roll along with the rest of the show. We had the amazing pet story of the week, a half wolf, half German Shepherd that dug an elderly couple out of a snowstorm. And we're going to do our breed of the week and then talk about potty training. So let's talk about these Cavapoos. They're half Cavalier King Charles, half Poodle. Poodle is what we're going to focus in on. But before we get to Poodle, tell us a little about the Cavalier King Charles.
This litter I saw 6 weeks ago, and I was just enamored. There was mostly butterscotch colors in there, and then there was this one tricolored in there. So both of those colors, the butterscotch could be coming from the Poodle. The Poodle can bring in a white, a black, butterscotch, a variety of colors. The Cavalier King Charles has more of that spots, kind of thing, different colors throughout the body. They can be in a ruby, in a Blenheim, in a tricolor. And so there's some color variations. Well, in this litter, I saw one of them was that tricolor, and it was a Cavapoo. So it had that Poodle, kind of going into the non or low shedding aspects, but then it had the Cavalier hair as well. And with this whole litter, it's kind of this long wavy hair that, curl that is coming out. It seems to be going down that lower shedding path as far as what it will do as an adult. And so it will need some grooming and all that kind of stuff. But I love the tricolor one that kind of looks like a Yorkie with a lot more fur. Is a good way, and a bigger body, because that Cavapoo will resemble the weights of a miniature poodle, which can get into those mid-teens, and a Cavalier King Charles, which can get into those 20s. And so this one's going to be, you know, that smaller dog still, but in that upper teen 20 range is what we're guessing at. Realize that you never can predict what they're going to be. It's something I always bring out here. I am taller than my parents and all my grandparents. And so, you know, you never know what's quite going to happen. So don't let anybody ever tell you that exactly this is where it's going to be. They're always this. You never know until they actually get there. Susie, the trouble child, also is our little Maltese poodle at home. She was a mere 2 pounds at 14 weeks old.
Wow.
We thought she was going to be, you know, like a 4-pounder at that point. All of a sudden growth spurt kicked in and she's now a 7, you know, as an adult, she's a 7-pound dog. So, you know, anything can happen. We're all living, breathing creatures that, you know, have different growth rates at different times and stuff. So the Cavapoo is a wonderful dog for those that want that great personality of a Cavalier King Charles. But, oh gosh, you know, that shedding that comes along with those spaniels, gosh, if I could get away from that, that would be great. Well, a Cavapoo is a nice go-between as far as it's going to be less shedding. It's not going to be anywhere near as much shedding as the Cavalier itself will, but it'll have that personality. Nice thing also about the Poodle side is that's a really smart dog as well as the Cavalier. So you're going to have a easier trained dog, somebody though that you're going to have to continue to train. When you get those smart dogs, that means that you're going to train and then they're going to test you.
They're training you.
Yeah, then they start training you like, okay, you told me I can't do it over here, but how about over here? And so they'll test those a lot. So the Poodle makes for a nice, easily trained dog that you can continue to train throughout its entire life. So
there's a lot of different poodles, like there's standard poodle, right? But then you hear about the French poodle, and I've seen the full-size poodles in different colors. And if you can hear that, she's absolutely attacking our garbage can right now.
That wrapper is so good.
So when someone says poodle,
in America, it's the American Poodle. That's what AKC recognizes. You know, you'll have some variations that you're thinking of, and those would be, you know, not, you know, they certainly are valid and are out there, but there's no big club that took that specific one on and adopted it into their club and then represented it to the AKC.
Okay.
AKC they only recognize the Poodle. And then they say there are various sizes that the poodle can be. And that's where we talk about miniature poodles. And so they've classified the miniature poodle under the greater poodle name. I know most people could care less about that kind of thing, but it's interesting how they've done that. Same thing with the dachshund. According to the AKC, there is no such thing as a miniature dachshund. They recognize there are different sizes and stuff like that for sure, but it's all under the dachshund name. I think I've got one little Cavapoo pulling the other Cavapoo around the studio. So diving a little bit just deeper, because I think we went through the Cavapoo here and we kind of get a gist for it. Diving a little bit deeper into the miniature poodle as a purebred itself, it's an interesting, I think we've said it recently, but it's interesting, the poodle cut. Where did that come from? Because that is just out of this world as far as how they cut the hair on the poodles. Well, it ends up being the poodle is a hunting dog, and specifically water retrieving and things like that. The miniature that we were bringing up here in our conversations was they feel were used for truffle hunting. Wait, truffles? That thing.
No, truffles are those. It's a very expensive thing. It's a food product used in cooking.
So it's game and all that. Yeah, but isn't it funny because isn't the chocolate thing as well?
Yeah.
I think my miniature poodle at home was going after the chocolate things. Yeah, and I'm not condoning feeding chocolate to
They're very expensive, actually sought after. That's why they use dogs to find the truffles.
So the miniature poodle was very experienced on that. So and then the standard poodles were for the larger game. But the haircut on a poodle, that that crazy poofy haircut, it was meant for going into the water. You'll notice that on the poodle, the face of the poodle is cut really tight. That was so that it could cut through the water better. Then the poofiness around vital organs was to protect the dog from colder temperatures that it might experience in the water.
Hmm.
And so it would insulate those areas. So it's kind of a little interesting fact that I've never heard anybody tell me that, but when you read up on it, you get to learn more about that from the AKC. So the miniature poodle is a non-shedding, and I get a lot of people go, hey, I got this, and it sheds. Yeah, non-shedding is not this all-inclusive type conversation or word. It better to say low shedding. All dogs shed, just like all people shed. Hey, I gotta go to the barber and get my hair cut, but it does fall out. Some more than others, and so we all shed, but we shed less. So we would be considered a non-shedding, breed kind of a thing if there was such a thing. And so the poodle is one of the least shedding of all dogs out there. So then people will even call it's hypoallergenic. Well, there's really no such thing as a dog. You're just not allergic to that dog, and it tends to have less allergens associated with it. So the poodle brings this to the table where it has reduced allergic reactions that you might experience. It has less shedding, so you're going to have them groomed and all that kind of stuff, which is real cute because you can do different shapes and things like that on them. And so that's I guess the other things about the miniature poodle, they're small enough so that they're apartment dwellers that would be fine. They're going to get most of their energy out, as well as the cavapoos that we have in the studio today. Small enough where they'll get most of the exercise they need out just by running around in the house. They would love though to go for a walk every day as well. So they'll be a good companion on your walks. Daily light or moderate exercise is really all they need. Let's see, what's the miniature? Stands somewhere in that 11 to 12 inches at shoulder. Is more the smaller size poodles. Now, standard poodles stand obviously a lot taller. So that's the miniature poodle in a nutshell. What we're looking at today in our studio is what we're posting on Facebook and all that.
Yeah, it's actually
is
just
the
up there.
cavapoo.
I put the side by side, and I said tan cavapoo or black and tan cavapoo. Which one are you bringing home today? And people can choose the two, and they are super cute. And a great, easy way to segue this is they've both peed in the studio. And thankfully with our plastic mats, which I've joked I have under you too, just in case you make an accident.
Just in case I have an accident.
In case I have one too. But we do have the plastic mats down here in the studio underneath the chair, so they roll around on the carpet a little better. But so they did both go. They're obviously puppies, so they just do that, that's just part of the deal.
Yep,
but as you get them home, you don't want them peeing all over your stuff. And as if you don't do anything about it, you could have this issue throughout their life. And there are people listening and their dogs pee all around the house. And it's hard to get them to stop. So best to get it early, right? And teach them the right way.
Right. Easiest to teach your dog at an early age. However, if you have an older dog, listen to the tips that we're going to bring out here, because applying these same tips to your dog will help the situation, if not eliminate the situation.
You can teach an old dog new tricks.
You can. Right? It's amazing. For instance, our dachshund, 1.5 years old, we got little Callie. Callie only pooed and peed in the house. It was as if they trained her to do that. And when we got her, we didn't quite understand how intensive that would be. We then went into training, potty training with her, really focused on getting her to go outside with using tips like what we're going to talk about. And now it took us 5 months, which is a little unusual. Puppies are a lot quicker. 5 months with Callie, but boy, she will not do a duty in the house. She will hold it for a long time. So you can teach an old dog a new trick.
That's the breakthrough that people listening who are frustrated right now, they want to have that. So you got to give them some hope today, Ron. Give them some hope and some faith that it can be done.
So let's jump in on it. Training is always, there's two factors, is redundancy, repeating the task over and over again so that they understand what you're looking for, and being consistent. So mixed signals, those two things are critical. Starting with a 24-hour cycle, what does it look like? All right, let's just go to the kennel. We're going to talk about kennel training. There are now 2 types of kennels that you can get, and you're making the choice of, am I going to do indoor training, so I'm going to have them go on pee pads or in a litter box, Or am I more the outside person, which I think the majority of the population is more the outside people. Just a caveat on the indoor, we have those now in our store, and it's a really interesting style made by a veterinarian who found that there is a tendency for dogs to, if they can get up onto a platform, they tend to not mess on the platform. They will mess a little lower on the lower areas. So in the kennel, if you're doing indoor training, it gets them going in the pee pad training because the pee pad is in the kennel, but they can then get up on the platform to get away from the poop and the pee so that they don't learn that, hey, I'm at work. I can't get them out, in the meantime. They'll do their stuff and then they'll get up onto the platform. This is for the puppy aspects of things. As they grow older, you're going to train them to use the pee pad. But they get used to using the pee pad then and saying, okay, I'm going to do my duty on that. And then I'm going to go up here and sit and be in a clean environment. Then when you come home, they're not all messy and all that kind of stuff. So they get down that path of pee pad training. That's basically that kennel and how it works. So if that's something of interest of you where you want to do the pee pad training, or, hey, my hours of work are not letting me get home in time to let them out, that's a great kennel for you to use. So now switching over to the more traditional, and what most of the people are looking to do is, hey, I want that stuff going on outside. So the kennel, as you approach the kennel, I just want to visually show you, or give you a picture of what that kennel looks like. The kennel is a place for that dog to have their timeouts, to have a safe place to go. If you're as a puppy, there's a wall that you usually can get with these kennels at our store, and it moves. It's a false wall that you can move back and forth. As a puppy, you want to make it a small kennel so that they can't poop and pee in one area and then walk over to another area and sleep. If they do their duty, they gotta suffer the consequence, and that's how they learn. Dogs are denning animals, and they really figure out quickly that, hey, if I poop in my den, I got to sit in it, and so I'm not going to poop in my den. And so that's what they do in the wild. They actually walk out of the den so they don't mess up the den. So as you're coming up, you're noticing that your dog is probably eager to see it because you're just waking up. You're going straight to the kennel. You see that the kennel is, somewhat tight for them so that they lay down and throughout the night. You open up that door and you lift up the dog. Do not let that dog walk out of that kennel because you've got a loaded gun right now. if that dog walks out of that kennel, it's saying, I'm out of my den. I can go now. And lift up that puppy, and you're going to walk immediately outside, out the door normally used for them to walk out in the future for pottying. You're going to have a treat in your pocket. So make sure you get a treat in your pocket before you go get your dog. You only need one usually. And so now you've got that. You're walking out the door. You put them down into the grass and just give them a couple of minutes, and they're going to relieve themselves. Now, while they're relieving themselves, while they're doing it, don't wait until after. Have that treat ready right at their nose. I have soft treats for our dogs. I just cut it. I just break them in half. Now I got 2 treats. So one for each duty. So as they're peeing, I have it right in their nose so that they know what I'm rewarding them for. What I want them to do is to do it outside in the grass, and I have it right at their nose. And if you consistently do this, this is one of those consistently things, and repetitively do it, they'll actually wait and hold it because they know they're going to get that treat. And dogs are motivated time motivators. The number one is food. They're motivated by food. Second one is praise in 2 different ways. So that's the second and third. One is tactile around their facial area, scratching and going, with your hands and all that. That's number 2. And then 3 is good dog, good dog. It's a verbal praising of the dog. If you do all 3, yeah, you got a home run here. So what I do with my dogs to give them know that I really want them to do what you're doing right now is I give them the treat. They scoop that up. I give them some scratches, and while I'm just giving them some scratches around the face, I'm going, good dog, good dog. And usually that tail is wagging away and everything, and they go, okay, I want more of that. But the first time you do that on any kind of training, they have no idea why you're doing this. They're peeing, they're noticing there's this smell in their nose. Oh, that tastes good. Oh, wow, I got some scratches. Oh, wow, hey, that's kind of a nice, pleasant sound I just heard. That's all that happened. They have no idea why that just happened. So consistently doing that every single time will get them, because I want to get that praise. I want to get that treat. And so I'm going to hold it until I get outside.
Eventually the light will go on, right?
They'll go on. It might be in 2 tries, 5 tries, or 40 tries. Just be consistent. Old dogs teach new tricks. This is exactly what you need to do for that old dog. Just keep on giving them the praise when they do it outside, and they'll go back to do that. A little also trick, nobody can prevent all accidents. There's going to be an accident sooner or later. It's important to clean up that accident. So here's tip number, I don't know where I'm at on this tip, but about tip 3 or 4 here. If they urinate in the house, that's a mark. And you go, oh, I must have a marking dog. All dogs are marking dogs. Every time they urinate, it's a mark. Use a stain and odor remover with an enzyme in it. And all you got to do is I would love for you to go to Petland, but any pet store is going to have something like that. So that you can pick the one that you want to use. But it's an incredible tool. Stain and odor remover with an enzyme in it. It's the enzyme that gets in there and eliminates the smell that they smell, that gives them the permission to pee. The same permission when they're going by a fire hydrant and they go, oh my gosh, I got to go pee. Even though they've peed 5 times already, they want to pee again because they smelled it. So if they smell that same smell in their house, they're going to get the same urge. You need to remove that smell so they don't get the urge in the house while they're just walking around. You'll notice if you've got that dog that pees in the same place all the time, that's exactly what's going on. If it's been going on for a while, know that you're going to clean this probably a couple of times to really get that smell out of there. But coming in, I use the Petland version of the stain and odor remover with an enzyme in it. And it works extremely well. I like the smell that it has. It's kind of a clean smell. You use it in glugs as opposed to spray. So you gotta really glug this stuff on there, especially if you have carpet and padding and all that. It has to get all over, deep into that padding, down into the wood floor underneath, seeping in there so that it gets after all that smell that's all through there. Your dog has a smell sense that is on the equivalent of our sight. Here in Jay's studio, I can see a mixing board, and I can see all these different buttons and colors and knobs and dials and needles going back and forth. When a dog smells, that's the level they're smelling. And so if they smell that one little knob to them is the permission to pee here, they're going to pee there. So you got to get these stain and odor remover with an enzyme out there so that you remove that smell so they don't have that as a permission to pee in your house. Get that outside.
I remember we had a caller at one point when we were taking live call-ins, and there was a guy who had a dog who kept going in his garage in the same spot on the concrete, and he was concrete. He was using all kinds of chemicals and stuff, and he said it just wasn't working. And then he did use that stuff, and I remember he called back and said it actually did work. So it's kind of one of those nice confirmations of something that that it does work. But as you said, you have to let that stuff seep in there and get it, because it actually does. Concrete is porous. It has some ability to absorb.
Right.
So.
Concrete is very porous. It got probably a 1/4 of an inch into the concrete, kind of a thing. And you would think, no, there's no way. Yeah. So you have to use that product, and you got to let it sit and ooze in there so that it gets all throughout there. So that is a huge tip for those that have dogs that are urinating in their house, and they're older dogs and they're still doing it. That's a tip for you right there. For you new puppy owners, that is something that we send home with our puppies so that they clean it up right away and stay on top of it. So we talked about first thing in the morning, pick up that puppy, bring it out. Give it a really strong encouragement with a treat, and do it outside. You praise them immediately they come back in the door, or they think coming back in the door is why you're praising them. So now you come back into the house and you let your dog run around and all that. You're going to now start learning their schedule. About every 2 hours that this dog needs to go out. Every 15 this dog needs to go out. Susie was a wateraholic. She drank and drank and drank and drank. Gosh, there was a period of time where every 30 minutes we had to let her out the door. We finally said, hey, let's limit the water from time to time throughout the day because this is getting crazy. She's now all the way through that. It was probably a developmental thing. A veterinarian could probably speak more to that. But now now she holds it for long periods of time, and she doesn't drink anywhere near as much.
So consistency and repetition, that's kind of the big message today, right?
So, yep. And so now you're trying to figure out their schedule, and they're trying to figure out your schedule in the house. So let's say, though, you go, they own the first time you went out. Hey, my dog didn't pee or poo, or hey, I know there's a poo in there.
Somewhere.
All you got to do is pick the dog back up out of the yard, put him back into the kennel. We're talking 5 minutes here. And start the process right over again. So if they do have an accident, now it is contained within the kennel. There's beds out there that we have in the store, easily washable and all that kind of stuff. At the beginning, I think we even had 2 beds. So one was at the ready and one was in the kennel, kind of a thing. And so 5 minutes, go back out into the yard, do it again, and see if you can get your dog to pee or poo, whatever they're holding back on. Give it to, let them have another chance. And I'm telling you, if they still don't do it, and I was out there for 10 minutes and couldn't get anything done, go through the process again. Maybe wait for 10, 20 minutes this time, and then go back out and do it again. In the meantime, if this repetition goes on too long, well, you might just give them a little drink, make drained and all that kind of stuff, and make sure that the nutrition is where it needs to be and the hydration is where it needs to be. So that is the first part. You're going to do this throughout the day. You're finding the structure of your dog, and when the schedule of when things happen and don't happen and all that kind of stuff. They usually fall into something fairly quick. Within days, you're like going, oh, I know where my dog's at, and you just follow that schedule and lengthen it out as they grow older. They're going to be able to hold it longer. They're going to, the food right now as a puppy usually is continuous. So they tend to have a lot more stools throughout the day. Once you get down to, as they're getting closer to an adult, you go back to where I feed our dogs twice a day. And guess what? We get stools twice a day. And so you can get that schedule going that way as well. Another tip that I have, so let's say we're now getting towards evening and you're like, you know what, my dog's doing okay, but struggles a little bit on that urination thing in the kennel. What you could help your dog with, provided that it's getting enough hydration throughout the day, so it's well hydrated, cut the water at around 7 o'clock in the evening so that your dog then has a couple of more chances to expel that out, empty that bladder, and is able to hold it throughout the night a little better. Susie had to have that when she was somewhere around 4 months. All of a sudden she reverted, started pottying in the kennel again because she was drinking so much water. We had to limit the amount of water as a result after 7 o'clock so that she'd expel that out, have a nice empty bladder, and that solved everything for us with Susie. So that is
potty training.
Potty training.
All right. And we have just enough time to feature Nutro Max. We'll talk about that, and then we'll wrap up the show here as we roll along with the PAWSitively Petland Show. You've been hearing from Ron Sulzrud. He's the owner of Petland of Iowa City, located right across from Lucky's Market in that Iowa City marketplace, and formerly known as the Sycamore Mall. Of course, they open up a new noon KXIC. If you've got the podcast page, well, they open up at noon on Sundays, but all the other days they're open up at 10 o'clock. And you could go and check out all the great things they have going on at Panda of Iowa City. And one of the things you'll notice when you come in, there's a whole wall of the store that's dedicated to pet food. They have dog food and cat food, premium brands. It's the good stuff for your dogs. And one of those great brands, the number one selling brand, as we learned earlier in the show, is Nutro. And Nutro has one of their types of food called Nutro Max. What can you tell us about it?
So Nutro Max, easiest way to think of it is if your dog doesn't have allergies, doesn't have any issues that you're aware of food-wise or anything, eats and digests, and life is beautiful. I always recommend Nutro Max because it's going to end up being one of the highest qualities, but it's also going to be one of the lowest prices, which is a nice go between. Nutro Max was designed for those dogs that don't have any food allergies or anything, and so you can use to make it a little cheaper to feed your dog, such as grains. I know, we hear over and over again, you need to feed your dog a grain-free, diet. That's just untrue. There is no scientific basis for that. When you read it on the internet, notice where you're reading it. It's usually on the dog food websites themselves. And if you look for that third party, there's really no scientific evidence that says dogs don't eat grains. It doesn't even make sense if you think about it, because they do eat grains. In fact, when a dog, let's say when a wolf is out in the wild and it's eating, the prey and everything, what's the first thing that it eats? And it's usually the stomach. And let's say it's a deer. Well, a deer is a grain-eating animal. And so they get the grains on a regular basis that way, as well as out in the wild. They're opportunistic eaters. So what do they prefer? Oh, well, the meat. But if they can't find that, then they go find other sources, such as grains. And so that's why grains have always been in the dog. Just like a couple of years, or no, about 4 or 5 years, we got on this protein kick with dogs that it had to be this obnoxious amount of protein. Well, gee, in a year, all these dogs were starting to be diagnosed with health issues because the protein was so high, i.e. the meat, that it was actually damaging organs. And so that the whole industry backed away from that whole high protein aspect of
Too much protein.
Right. So the grain-free is kind of going down that same path. People are going, there are some benefits that some dogs have with grain-free formulas, usually due to allergy type issues. But most dogs don't need that. And so, if you're not feeding a grain-free, don't feel guilty. I feed one of my dogs, needs a grain-free diet. Guess which one? It's the trouble child, Susie. But then Callie, or Dachshund, she'll eat anything, literally. But she is on a Nutro product. Nutro Max is for those that don't have any of those allergies. And it's a great product because it has all the antioxidants in it. The quality cat food. They actually add hairball management products in there for your cat all the time. Both cat and dog have a bunch of fish oil, sunflowers, chicken fat, omega-3s, fatty acids, those things that will help for a healthier skin and coat, shinier coat. So that's all in there. So they are really good products with a well-balanced meal. I went to the third-party dog food advisor.com, and you can look up Max on there. Out of 5, Max is a 3.5. Which is a really nice rating for any dog food, especially, hey, this is an economical dog food. When I get through it, we talked at the beginning of the show about some things that they'll bring out and say, hey, this is controversial. Not really controversial in that it's bad. It's just the media is beating it up. Guess what they're going to beat up? Oh, there's grains in there, kind of thing. Well, Dog Food Advisor is a good. We're just pointing this out because that's what consumers are looking for, but there is no basis for it. But we just pointed that out because we know our clientele wants to read about it. So it does have whole wheat in it and wheat flour in it. We talked about beet pulp. guess what? It has beet pulp in there. And beet pulp is good for the dog because it does make for a stiffer stool. You know, it's not, it helps solidify things to get things going through the dog the way it should be. So those are the couple of things that they brought out. Why they didn't rate it a 5 was because of that. All the other great things that it talked about, chicken meal. We've talked about what's the definition of chicken meal, and chicken byproducts. Chicken meal and chicken are really, really good. Chicken meal is even better because it's a meat concentrate. It means that it's cooked, and it's nearly what I'm just reading the first time, nearly 300% more than if you just saw chicken. So that's a significant chicken meal or beef meal or lamb meal. Those are all good terms. That's a good thing. Products are good, but there's limits to that. When it has to define what the byproducts are, and if it's not defining what the byproducts are, you don't know whether they're talking about hair or whether they're talking about a trachea. The trachea is a great product for a dog. Hair does nothing on it. And so that's where it does get confusing on labels. Cheap foods will use byproducts that have things like hair. They can claim it as a protein source. But you can't digest hair, nor can your cat or your dog. And so it's really a nothing thing, but they add it because they can claim it as a protein. Good dog foods and good cat foods don't do that. Max is one of them. They don't do that kind of a thing. They don't even have byproducts in their diet. They use a rice bran and rice-based ground rice. They do that because they found rice is actually so they use rice in there as well. So Nutro Max is a great food in a lot of different ways. I wouldn't hesitate to feed it to your dog if your dog doesn't have allergies or anything that you're concerned about. You got a large breed dog, feed it Max, Nutro Max, and you're going to have smaller stools. You're going to have less cleanup as a result around the yard. And you're going to feed less also because it's a higher nutrients-based food than what you're going to get in the grocery stores and marts and all that kind of stuff. So huge kudos to Nutro Max.
All right, Nutro Max. We covered a lot today. Boy, it was a busy show. Lots of things that we told about. And again, if you just tuned in and missed it, you caught the end of the show and you thought, oh, I missed the pet show. Hey, good news. It's available right now on the podcast page, kxic.com. Just click podcast, go to the pet show, and you can listen to this show in its entirety. Maybe go through those training tips again if you want to learn how to, some tips along to teach you how to potty train your dog and to stick with it. Some good advice there from Ron Salzer with Petland of Iowa City. We featured the poodle today. You may have heard a few times during the broadcast, having fun. They're playing with each other, and they probably won't be at the pet store very long. I would imagine they're going to go home to a family pretty soon because they're super, super cute. Ron, it's been fun. Anything else you want to squeeze in as we wrap up the show?
Yeah, if you have any questions on what we talked about here on the show, come on in. We're all about educating, the customers and letting, finding out really what is your situation. So if you have a really specific potty issue that you want to run by us, invite you to come on in, ask us the questions, and we'll give you, thoughts and ideas on your specific situation. Or if you're trying to, get into a different dog or cat food or hamster food for that matter, we can talk with you about all your options.
All right. We appreciate it. Thanks, Ron. Have a good one.
Thank you very much.
Ron Salzer at Petland of Iowa City. I'm Jay Capron. Go check him out right at the Iowa City Marketplace, Lower Muscatine, the place to be. Check him out. Open at noon today if you're listening on Sunday, and 10 o'clock every other day at the Sycamore. I keep saying Sycamore Mall because it just sticks in my head, but they have that newly opened Lucky's there. Parking lot's been full there. Also, of course, head to Petland with your dog or cat. We'll be right back with more after this. Bye.